And we're back randomly with Ronnie Jr. Another episode. Obviously, there's over 1,000 pieces of content, so make sure you check them all out. Patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr. if you want to show a little extra love. Love that too. But Kenya Moore, let's talk about Kenya Moore, the one and only, right? Kenya Moore, polarizing at anything she does back in the 90s and, of course, on Real Housewives of Atlanta and beyond. One thing, looking back at all the episodes, it was like, wow, there's a lot of episodes on Kenya Moore. And a lot of them do really well, and we have a lot of fun with them. So I wanted to put together a little best of clip where all the Kenya Moore commentary and banter is in one place. So check it out. If you're a Kenya Moore fan, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
But can we just jump to Kenya, please? Because
time out. Mama Marky Costello, who I've worked with and took her classes. So we go back in very deep conversations we've had. Now, this is just reality TV, so this is just very fluffy conversations. But let me tell you somebody that I have loved from the beginning. I used to, in fact, say Real Housewives of Atlanta started season 5 when the great Kenya Moore came through. Gone with the Wind fabulous. I am a huge Kenya Moore fan. I never liked the notion, oh, you're just a has-been from the 90s. You might say you're a has-been from the 90s if you weren't around and kind of saw what Kenya was. Kenya was the culture of the time. We, like, in terms of me growing up, I was 18, 19, 20, 21 when Kenya was moving, right? And so when she came onto Atlanta, she could have been full of herself or whatever the case, but she showed up and she performed. I've always loved the great Kenya Moore hair care. So I will be happy if you also, as a casting director and as a talent manager, if you agree that she is one of the best. Now I'm going to be at the edge of my seat eating my popcorn.
love Kenya. I love Kenya.
If you were going to be like, if I was going to say like, okay.
I love Kenya. And it's really a travesty that they let her go over the reason they let her go, because once again, it goes back to what we said about Brandy. It's like, oh, wait, so now you're moving the line again. Now, okay, so here the new cast member is at an event for Kenya. We all know how Kenya is, which is why she makes great reality TV. And she puts up something about this girl. I blame the producers. They know what the fuck is coming. I had a reality show. So it's like, they know what's happening. If that was going to be an issue, those producers should have stopped it before it ever got to that point. Otherwise, someone said to her, because they all have to discuss storyline and what they're doing. So for them to be like, oh my God, we didn't know, bullshit. Yeah. And to hang her out to dry like that. And then say, that's what pissed me off. It was like, shame on you.
Yeah, no, you're right. You did the Drama Queen on the E! Channel. I've done Fuse TV, the VJ Search, as well as TLC. I did a show on there. Everybody knows what's generally happening. And it is, even if you think it was insanely a really bad move, it's hard for the cast members to be nudged along that move. And the moment it gets reacted in such a way, people sort of turn their backs on you. Now, the great thing about Kenya is she still maintains, I'm still involved. And what I mean by that with Kenya is, and I love this about Kenya, she's a superstar regardless, whether she left reality TV to go, when she was pregnant, when she came back, whether she's from the 90s, whether she's, a pageant girl, Kenya will always be. So while I think it's kind of they never gave her a spinoff, she should have a spinoff,
100%.
But nonetheless, like what I always say is, sometimes it feels like the cast members, they define so much on the success of this show. Kenya Moore is not bigger than the show. I'm not trying to say anyone's bigger than the show, but like, she don't care. She's not hung up on it. She's a star regardless. That's an internal thing. You know what I mean? You have that, Marky. You know what I mean?
I think shame on Bravo and the production company that produces Atlanta, in the sense where let's not pretend like, when all reality is produced, people, and and the producers know everything that's coming. And the fact that like they hung her out to dry was just horrific, in my opinion. It goes back to the Brandy, the Nene's, like, Nene made good TV, whether you love Nene Leakes or hated her. Nene made good TV.
You don't think she was a tad overrated?
Towards the end, yes, because Nene started to drink her own Kool-Aid. And
yeah.
and not remembering where she came from. It's like, Nene,
Mhm.
you can go do Ryan Murphy's sitcoms and all of the TV shit,
Mhm.
and more power to you, but don't forget where you came from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but Nene made for great TV. I'm so happy Portia's coming back. I love
Mhm.
Portia.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
Portia going through her divorce and all of that stuff, I really hope we get a lot of that story once again, because we know Portia, we love Portia. And what makes Portia so great is she bounces back. And that's
Yeah.
what we have to remember. There's a part of this formula that works is because someone gets cheated on, someone goes through something devastating, but they climb themselves back, they bounce back. We love a comeback in
Yep.
Hollywood of any
Yep.
kind, because we as the viewer can relate and connect, and we want to root for you.
Yeah.
So
Well, Portia makes sense, even though she gets under my skin as a cast member, as she is
right,
compelling. One thing about Portia, she is the Georgia Peach. Like, that's another thing. Like, yes, it's great to have like a Cynthia come through and a Kenya. These are people I like.
right,
But Portia, as much as Phaedra was, you know what I mean? Like, well, I'm not sure if Phaedra is from Georgia to begin with, but the point is, Portia is a Georgia peach, and it is important to have her on the show. I think she
right,
does do a really good job.
right.
Absolutely. Anyways, Atlanta will be interesting. We're going to end with New Jersey because we're going to have a love fest of Melissa Gorga. We are, but
Yeah.
one person I need to mention, because when we talk about compelling, and I don't know if you're going to say that she has the A, B, C, and C storyline, but are you with me with that Larsa Pippen? Okay, Marky, are we ready to get into it?
Yes.
they always say, oh, Larsa, she was, she was, kissing ass of the Kardashians, which, by the way, I loved Larsa from season one, her season one on Miami. I actually didn't really follow her on the Kardashians. And so it's always that notion of like, oh, she's just a Kardashian has been or whatever. I'm like, I don't think Larsa carries herself that way. When you're friends with her, she loves you. I think if she moves on, she moves on. So the joke that I make, Marky, is Larsa didn't need the Kardashians needed Larsa. that's how
I
much I like her. Yeah.
I love Larsa.
Well, just when people thought Real Housewives of Atlanta was maybe having a lower or more quiet of a season, I don't know. It seems like they're kind of not bouncing back, but they're getting people to talk. And one of the things is like, having the original cast members back, even just as a cameo, is cool. And then we're also hearing that Kim Zolciak is maybe not getting a divorce. Sometimes these headlines that are rumored headlines, and then the cast member or former cast member just steps in on social media to say, no, that's not true. But then they like embrace another headline, and then they're like, well, let me tell you the real story. And then they end up getting casted because of it. All of it is a little bit of a mess. But I just want to be there in the regards of saying, I've always thought, I mean, in terms of this season where everyone seems to have an opinion, I think Real Housewives of Atlanta is still a really good show. I mean, of course, I love Kenya. So I like to call it the Kenya Moore Show, featuring the boss, Candy. But I don't know. It's not bad. So there has been plenty of excitement about the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16, because season 15 did take a little bit of a dip, but nonetheless, it's going to be good. There's been a lot of anticipation. I will miss Candy, but you got to go on and do different things, that's for sure. And Candy will go on and do the SWV and Escape reality show, so it'll be fun to watch that. And that was a good season one. But what I really care about is not that Portia Williams is back, or whatever her name is actually these days, Gubadia, Portia Williams Gubadia or not, is that Kenya Moore, the great Kenya Moore, will be back for season 16. And the reason, in my mind, it took a long time is because she had to make sure those checks were lining up and the zeros were lining up, because, the announcement did not happen right away. So I assume she got top dollar, which, by the way, Kenya Moore should always get top dollar. Season 16 looks to be exciting. Even if she's not sharing, I got to say, the fan base is loving Jenna. To your question, or your comment rather, on should she be in the first chair, I feel like yes, but I'm really proud. Like, as you know, Team Jessel, we're like, we did it. We won. And you knew Aaron would kind of be in the front seat because she's been all up in the mix, But and I love Aaron. I do like Aaron a lot. in terms of Jenna being in the middle, you got to also think people like Kenya Moore have been in the center seat. So has Larsa Pippen, and the center seat isn't necessarily a downgrade unless you make it feel like a downgrade. You know,
I feel like Candy on Roja has been on the end multiple times.
but her checks have never been at the end.
Her
No,
checks
no. You know, my beloved Giselle Bryant says, wherever I sit is the baddest seat in the room. And so I always try to, like, you know, lock into that.
She's just somebody you always want to see rebound. And I think when you make a really great reality personality in terms of casting or the network, they need somebody who's always going to have a story and tell a story. Have a story and tell a story. So Luann is great. Now we got to talk about the great Kenya Moore. Kenya Moore will always be the most important thing from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Kenya Moore, on another level, whether she does Real Housewives of Atlanta, whether she leaves Real Housewives of Atlanta, where she comes back and gets a spinoff, whether she goes to do another TV show, she is. I was born in the 80s, so I was growing up in the 90s, and yes, Kenya Moore was specifically and significantly that girl. She really was. So to kind of make it as if, oh, you're a has-been or you're from the 90s. Thank you. If you were there, I was there. You know what I mean? I'm turning 20 years old around the year 2000, you know, so I remember the legend that was Kenya Moore, and you know, all the things she did on the show. I'm talking about the Kenya Moore hair care, the Gone with the Wind Fabulous. Like, there is just nothing that could ever stop the great Kenya Moore in terms of her success. Now, will she continue to push and sort of be the most time after time, and you do have to kind of be like, ooh, this is a lot, Kenya. Yes, she will. She's not somebody that you do watch and be entertained by in the TV space, and you're like, oh, she's perfect. But she's pretty close to perfect. She's gorgeous. You know, coming from the history and the background that she always speaks upon, you know, not having a mother in her life, and even what that could do in terms of her confidence, but I think also her fortitude to push through. That's what makes her so great. So anyone who ever had the concept of like, oh, like, you know, Real Housewives of Atlanta was something before her. No, it wasn't. It didn't start till season 5 when the great Kenya Moore, you know, came through with the Gone with the Wind Fabulous. And yes, you could try your very best to try to make fun of her. And here's the thing you don't want to think about too, is like, why would you make fun of somebody who had such a big career at a time? And at that time, when you were trying to succeed, the elements were a little bit different. You know, you had to get casted. It was much more rich. You know, you can't put the comparison of like, oh, well, nowadays, you know, a new Real Housewives of Atlanta cast member is the same as Kenya. Look at, they're booking this and they're booking that and they're booking this. That didn't happen before. If you were put on back in the day, if you got an opportunity back in the day, it's because you were something. You didn't get to take to social media and create like a messy, you know, controversy. And then, you know, that buzz sometimes turns into a monetized situation. People want to work with you, et cetera, et cetera. Kenya was different. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I'm just trying to say, if you're not of my age bracket, I'm in my 40s, we remember what Kenya Moore meant to so many people. She really did light it up. She was our girl of the 90s, so never make fun of that. And you also can't knock the fact that how wonderfully she did on the show. Yeah, was she embarrassed? Did she take a shot at love and it didn't work out? I mean, that is so true for everybody. You know, we're always making these decisions that when we look back, we're like, how did we get here? You know, but she has her beautiful daughter. Kenya Moore continues to push through business-wise, and she's just the type of cast member, much like a Cynthia Bailey, also of the, if you remember what Cynthia Bailey meant, she was it. You know, these Cynthia, Kenya, they were so powerful and they really shined in their time. So of course, Real Housewives of Atlanta, they would do the same. But that's not to say anybody who has a name makes for good reality TV. That's very specific. Not everyone who makes has a name from the past you could just bring onto a show. It takes a very special cast member, and I think Kenya Moore really was wonderful, and she was that good. I could talk about Kenya Moore forever and ever, and if you think or search through the channel here, you will see that I talk about Kenya Moore a bunch. I was doing Real Housewives of Atlanta, like who would be the Mount Rushmore of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and it would not be Nene Leakes. No. it would be Kenya Moore, Candy Burris, so on and so forth. So search the channel and you can find that. Now I'm going to talk about the wonderfully iconic Melissa Gorga. But before I do, if you wanted to like, comment, subscribe, and support this channel, here is how you would do it.
For more randomness, hit the Patreon at patreon.com/randomlyronniejr. Did you remember to like, comment, and subscribe? Oh, come on, stop being so lazy. This show has no budget, but whose fault is that if you don't like, comment, or subscribe?
Okay, so how do I love Melissa Gorga as a reality TV superstar? Let me count the ways. Melissa Gorga is...
that other lady, I only will bring up because people will assume she made Real Housewives of Atlanta. And what can I say to that? She won't be on my Mount Rushmore. No. No, no, no. Okay, you are back with hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. Why is it even called that? Hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. Because if you are coming across the video here on this platform and other platforms too, but specifically this one, I always encourage you to go to hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. because collectively, as I always tell you, I worked in radio since the early 2000s. Collectively, through all of my YouTube channels over the years, not just this one that is now the new podcast, you know, like a YouTube series and all that. There is about 800, 900 videos, all connected and streamlined through hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. So if you like anything that's going on, go there and you'll see other stuff that might be interesting to you. Okay, so question and the lecture at hand today. I just simply, and I almost wanted to do, and I'll probably do it with somebody, one of the fantastic co-hosts that I always work with. I, of course, always work with Russell Ray Silva. Go check out his channel. We covered all of Real Housewives of New Jersey and Miami, and other colleagues that I have had on my program. I'll do a who ultimately from each franchise is Real Housewives Mount Rushmore. So that would be tough because you could only pick one. So I don't want to do that one on my own. That way there's not necessarily a bias. I want to get other opinions. But today I really did want to say, because Atlanta has been such a strong show over the course of the years, and yes, shows dip, shows, you know, grow and this and that. I mean, I'm one of the few people, I guess, that doesn't really find too many challenging, oh my gosh, Atlanta's not giving what it used to get. I still think it's a great show. I think it's fun. I think what actually happened, and this is a side note I should leave for later, but we're going to get into it now. There is a thing that sort of started to happen because, you know, at the end of the day, it used to be if you had an opinion and you broadcasted it as like a podcaster, it was an opinion only. Then over the years, because everyone is now a public figure, you can do that same opinion on Twitter. And honestly, I don't think it should get that much credibility, but somehow I believe that people think that they are going to sit at their keyboard and almost completely not act like the network, Bravo, Andy Cohen, whoever, don't know what they're doing with their shows. I think, I hate to say it, and this is only coming from my perspective. I've been in the business, radio, production, all of these jobs since the early 2000s. And I'm just saying, yes, networks do like a social media viral moment. Do they care what you think? I don't really think they do. I really don't think they do. I don't think they do. But you, oh my God, the people on Twitter, and I do kind of say a lot of them are not with an agenda, but they have a goal to get their numbers up. You know, I don't play any of that. That's why my numbers aren't exactly, you know, there's no shocking episode. There's no exposing. Now, I know some stuff from working in the business for 20 years, but that's not what I do. I'm actual broadcaster from years ago. And I know you do get tired of hearing me say that, but I'm gonna hit you with it every time. Thank you. 42-year-old, got a little extra weight on me, but it's looking good, and I'm happy. Anyways, the point of that was just because Atlanta isn't as huge as it once was, you could do what you want. You could tweet, waste your own time and tweet about it. Think that the network does actually care about your opinion. And if you're like a YouTuber, podcaster, and it's your way to kind of grow, it ain't how I would want to do it. Like but go for it. You know, I'm not gonna fix my mouth to do an episode where I'm trying to use my voice or my show to want and hope that somebody gets fired. Now, I think Kyle's one of the more boring housewives, but I don't want her to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, it's not what I do. Anyways, I'm not trying to come for anyone else who takes to Twitter with an opinion, takes to Instagram with an opinion, takes to TikTok with an opinion, or is a content creator with an opinion. Everyone do you. I'm saying, and I know a lot of people could agree with me on this, and if you can't, you can explain yourself in the comments. A lot of people, oh, hold on, I have a little, yes, I need to check the old phone to make sure, lots of things going on. A lot of people, I feel, know that, the network don't take it seriously. So do all you want. Feel that you got Lisa Rinna booted from the show. That one's a little bit of a different situation. That was probably not the best example. But my point is, don't waste your time. The network is going to do what the network's going to do. Good or bad, they're going to find the right people. I'm saying that I think Atlanta is actually a significant series still. Then it was pondering in my mind, who is, because I love Candy. I love Candy. I mean, this is how much I love Candy. I love Candy. But I love Kenya Moore. I mean, I talk about Team Twirl, Kenya Moore, all day, every day. The show technically did not start until the Kenya Moore show came through. And she hired the bodyguards, because people are crazy. Miss Lawrence blessed the screen as well. Kenya Moore was that girl from the 90s. If you were there, you were there. I'm 42 years old. We remember the way Kenya moved. And a lot of people will say, well, now it's all the same because they're all on the same show. So like they're all like the same level. No. Kenya's up here. Kelly Ben Simone. And some of the other gals are down here. Kelly Ben Simone trying to say that to Bethany. But Candy and Kenya are on another level. Now, I do think sometimes that is a little challenging if you're a cast member. And while I don't really enjoy her, although on Ultimate Girls Trip with Giselle Bryant, I think she was actually quite funny, I will give credit to a housewife. It wasn't my cup of tea ever, outside of the girls trip, like a Portia, who jumped into the show and really did create a lot of success for herself. I do think that is amazing. And I do think slightly it's a little harder to be like, you are actually living your life. I don't know what, a lot of times people do come on this show and they are already in the business in some degree. But like, it would be hard, like if I started a show and I'm the only one, while I'm talented and while I've done what I've done in this career for a very long time, it would be hard if you put me next to somebody that already has a household name. So I give a little bit of like, I like Candy and I like Kenya, but that's also because they speak to this language of like so many of my memories, like that just, it comes up quite a bit. Candy specifically because she is just the boss and because she's worldwide and because who said that? So many reasons about Candy sort of inspire you, and I like that. And Kenya, the Kenya Moore show. She just is like, you ever look at a quality of yourself and you're like, okay, I gotta fix this, I'm good at this, I'm brilliant at this. And you kind of like weigh it out. I kind of feel like when I watch Kenya, and this is with all love being said, because I don't think it gets better than Kenya Moore. Kenya Moore might be the top housewife of the franchise in its entirety. We could talk about that another time. But when I watch it, Kenya Moore sometimes does become difficult to defend because some of her actions are so out there. It's also why she's wonderful TV. Kenya Moore hair care will never be The stunts that could be tried will never match up to that. Nicole with the credit card at Alexia's, and being outshined by Larsa, who was just sitting there. Like, you could try the stunts, you could try the foolery, but you don't do it like Kenya Moore. So anyways, these are like my top Real Housewives of Atlanta gals. And again, I'm giving credibility to that difference between She by Sheree and I'm building up a name as a regular person on this show. And I love She by Sheree. And what it must be like to not go up against, but you're on a show where Candy is Candy and has done stuff in this industry, same as Kenya. But even though I'm aware and I acknowledge it, it still doesn't mean that I think less of them. I acknowledge it. I give Portia tons of credibility to build something from nothing. I think that's great. I do wish she could be a tad smarter. That would be that would be valuable. But I wish I could be a tad smarter. So there you go. So it just had made me ponder the question: who is on the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta? Now, much like the person who sort of is felt to lead New Jersey, and Melissa Gorga and Dolores Catania, just triumph over the gal that nudged the table. She didn't flip the table. She simply nudged it. And she was coming at a woman who wasn't really a physical opponent in that way, and who was also getting it from all ends. Everybody was, so it really wasn't that valuable. But people want to say, the tree stumps want to say, the tree is Jersey. Jersey is Melissa Gorga. Actually, Melissa Gorga, outside of Kenya Moore, might be one of the number one housewives, up there with the Giselle Bryants, with the Larsa Pippins, with the Luann de Lesseps, with the who on Beverly Hills. I like Dorit. Anyways, tangent. Who cares? Who cares about the other franchises? What I'm saying is, I'm getting at Atlanta, much like New Jersey. Some people will feel that lady who ended up on the show Glee, who really quite a flop. I think Claudia Jordan said it best. What a fumble. Do you play football? What a fumble. That other lady I only will bring up because people will assume she made Real Housewives of Atlanta. And what can I say to that? She won't be on my Mount Rushmore. No. She gave the I said what I said, and that's where it stops. That's all. Like, I'm talking again, I think we mentioned this a bit ago, either on this episode or another one. Go watch all my episodes. If you take a lot of shots, you're going to make one or two. If you swing the bat, one day it'll be a home run. So that gal, the one that ended up doing Glee and the whatever other things, and I guess she had a moment. I don't put her on my Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta. I will put She by Sheree up there, though. So on my Mount Rushmore, I can leave it there and we can add. And this is where it becomes, you tell me, like, do you think it was the gal, that went on to do The Apprentice and had issues with Shar, who's our gal from The View, formerly of The View, Star, what you know the gal, the one she married Al Reynolds. Anyway, you can say her. You can say Kim Zolciak, because they were the early group to the show. Quite frankly, outside of the issue that Phaedra sort of pushed the line in the envelope and it was time for her to leave, I think Phaedra, in terms of, these really funny remarks and just the tone and the Southern bellness of it all, Phaedra's up there in a Mount Rushmore, for sure, of Atlanta. I think Cynthia is so regal. I think she, speaks to the language of yesteryear. Again, I said I'm 42 years old. I remember growing up in the 90s. Like, Cynthia Bailey was that, she was something. She meant something. She meant something to my age group. You know what I mean? So she can go up there as well. And I guess there is a question of, does Portia go up there on Real Housewives of Atlanta, the Mount Rushmore? Again, we're just making up this list. This is just complete nonsense. But I do want to know who you think. In my opinion, I'm starting with Kandi and the great Kenya Moore. Do you remember when Kenya Moore was on with Michael Rappaport? When I went to go to see Michael Rappaport's live show, when I got to do the meet and greet, the first thing I said is, oh, you got to show more love to Kenya Moore, because I'm such a Kenya Moore super fan. Love Kenya Moore. So that, anyways, so I always get very excited to speak of, Kenya. Somebody told me the other day recently, this was in an episode? I don't know, but maybe it was just a conversation. Maybe it was even on Instagram. Somebody I know, a friend, a colleague rather, was like, oh my God, randomly Ronnie, you like all the ridiculous girls. And I mean, I like people that are compelling, who came and clocked into the job. Didn't pull the Karen Huger, I'm going to sit on the sidelines, I'm going to wait for mess to happen, and then I'm going to swoop in and come in like Pebbles on the interview with Wendy Williams with a low demeanor energy and say, I am the matronly figure and I think we should all get along. Now, there's nothing wrong with Pebbles, but Pebbles had the issues with TLC, and the way she portrayed herself in that Wendy Williams interview has always been funny to me, and it's always made me, it reminded me each and every time. I'm like, that's the same gimmick that Karen Huger does. She will sit on the sideline. She will sit so on the sideline that people in production are more prominent and funny and charismatic than her. But she'll wait for the mess to happen. The people that did clock in. And then she'll come in and, oh, Candace, I need to welcome you in, and I need to give you tough love as a a motherly figure. We want to see women build each other up. like Karen is nonsense. I actually should like Karen a lot better. And by the way, when the show initially, and I know we're talking about Atlanta, when the show initially began, I used to say this. When the show initially began, I said, Karen actually should be a high number 2, right under Giselle. But Karen plays herself sometimes. So that's the only thing. But Karen does have a supposedly loving, allegedly loving relationship and all that stuff. And I think that stuff's great. So Karen actually, we'll say it like this. Karen for sure would be on the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Potomac. And maybe we'll do an episode on that at some point. But I need your help to do who is the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta. And we're building this out. So we have not finished. We have not decided. But I'm putting Kenya and Kandi always getting the bag, Burris, in the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta. So 2 things I need in terms of how we can come up with this answer. And again, what are we doing this for? What are we doing this for? We're doing this because we're bored and we're watching, silly commentary about this silly show. But I need you to do 2 things. I need who is on the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's number 1. Number 2, to do that, to qualify it, what are the iconic moments from that person? You know what I mean? So let's say, and I'm going super early. There's 1,000 things that Giselle Bryant did on Potomac. But when Giselle Bryant said, after Karen tried to tell her, it was not with the proper etiquette and decorum that you sat in the center when it was my birthday. To which Giselle said, but you were an hour and a half late. That's number 1. Number 2, you didn't even tell me at the time. So if you had an issue, you should have spoke your mind when it was time. And beyond that, you came with this tacky gift. And Giselle, as she said it right on the show. Initially, she said, and people want to knock the wig, but I think Giselle is beautiful, and we're just going to let that be. Giselle, season 1, very fit. Giselle now, amazing. I love it all. Go ahead, Giselle. But anyways, to the point, Karen thought she was going to give her a gift that was insanely petty and tacky, all of that. And Giselle said, I'll play along. And she took the mirror, or whatever it was like a mirror with some words or something like that. And she took the mirror and she said, well, I'll just use this because it was supposed to be intended to make Giselle feel like, oh, you could learn a thing or two about etiquette, class, and decorum. But it had a mirror. So Giselle took that. And Larsa should have done that when Nicole did that uninvite. I totally think Larsa should have done that, because if you come at me with some silly stuff, I could only play to the silly level that you're giving me. So it was so silly that Karen Huger, Miss Etiquette, wanted to tell Giselle how it should go. And Giselle caught that mirror. I mean, it was a frame or something like that, but it had a reflection. She put it right to herself, and she said, I love this, Karen. I am beautiful, or something like that. So if you're going to put somebody on the Mount Rushmore, give a couple iconic scenes. That's not the only iconic scene from Giselle, obviously, but give a reason. You know, for me, it's like Kenya with the, going to Cynthia Bailey's modeling agency with the bodyguard. Kenya Moore with the Kenya Moore hair care at Marlowe's event. Like, these things, put in the comments, what is the thing that qualifies, the person to be on the Mount Rushmore of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And it could be anybody. You can feel... Deshaun and Lisa Wu early on. You can feel Kim Fields. You could feel Kim Fields. Like, whoever is your person. This is not about dividing. What you could think it is. That gal Lanithia. You could. All of it is fine. But there's just been a ton of cast members. You could think it's Claudia Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, it can be anybody, really. So just put who is the Mount Rushmore of Real Housewives of Atlanta. We'll talk about it, and then we'll move on with our lives, because this is just all in fun commentary on a Bravo reality show that sort of brings us all together, and that is insanely fun. Now, you're supposed to like, comment, and subscribe, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And since I'm not going to say it, we do have a word. So let's go to...
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, Randomly Ronnie Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/Randomly Ronnie Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag, Randomly with Ronnie Jr., and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Yes. Patreon.com/Randomly Ronnie Jr. If you are a Real Housewives of Atlanta cast member and you came across this information, I think there's only one way to say thank you. And that is comment, like, and subscribe. But hit that Patreon and, make it rain. There is a tier for $25 if you just want to support me. And I think that's nice. Because the career, it's a struggle. You got your ups and you got your downs. You got your ups and you got your downs. But I do enjoy where we're at now. I enjoy what is being built. I enjoy just fun commentary, typically on my channel versus a lot of other content creators, and everyone can do what they want. There's not a lot of we've got a story from Marlo Hampton exposing the chi. It's like, how do you know? How do you even know? How do you know? But again, I got to let people do what they do. The marketplace and the landscape is crazy, but I would like to think that you think that I do my episodes in just a different way, in a way from a guy that comes from radio from all those years ago, who's been involved in radio even in New York City, with the great Miss Jones, on 94.7 The Block, a little part-time contribution to that. and all the stuff I've done over the years, I would like to think that there's something really fun and a reason for you to come back. Now, while I think Lanithia is overrated, she's overrated. Were we laughing with her or were we laughing at her? It's maybe where I would start that conversation, but maybe she's a lovely human being. So we're going to keep it very sweet and nice. And I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you feel beautiful. I hope that whatever is going on in your world, I was talking to somebody recently about this. Show up with your level of confidence regardless. So if your money's not right, don't turn yourself down. If you have put on a couple extra pounds, wear them the right way. You know, I have gained a little weight, but I'm still the baddest in the room, like Giselle Bryant used to say. Wherever I sit, wherever I sit is the baddest place in the room. Oh, the great Giselle Bryant. But whatever is the thing, you know, lots of people creatively, even, you know, with some of the stuff that goes on and in the, you know, with the writers and the, you know, the unions and stuff, like so much is going on. And I just want, hopefully, I don't know why I'm doing a public service announcement after I'm doing the Real Housewives of Atlanta, who is the Mount Rushmore of the cast. I just want everyone to put a level of confidence in what they do, despite it, all the stuff that you could potentially be going through. Because here's what it is. These are just momentary things. That little roller coaster, up, down, you know, highs of highs, lows of lows. That is just sometimes things that happen. But don't give anyone else the satisfaction. You know what I mean? Like, you could feel like, I personally want to do this and change this and travel abroad, learn a new language, get a fitness regimen, just, you know, study and learn and become a yoga teacher, whatever it is. You could have your things that are now shortcomings that you're working for. I mean, listen, I want to be a sous chef and I will work for it. But I don't think, while we're not popping, if you look back at your life and there's a lot on that table, I don't even know what that means, but there's a lot that you have brought to the table over the years, don't let the moment now that isn't really thriving define you. Because I certainly don't. I will say it today and I will say it every day. I'm amazing. I'm beautiful. I'm confident. Let's go. Hit the Patreon. Let's, we want to go. Let's really go. Patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr. Please make it rain on the Patreon. And if you could, at the very least, go to #randomly with Ronnie Jr. and you could see a plethora of videos that I have done since working in the radio industry in the early 2000s. In total, I think we're at about 900 videos. So that's all different walks of life. That's me working at several radio stations. That's me creating a podcast. It's just a lot. So there's got to be something in there that you like. Now, if you watch all 900 and you're like, oh, he is awful. Well, then I'm like, unsubscribe in that case. But I think there's something for everybody. That is the goal. That is the goal. That is why I've worked as hard as I've worked. And that is why I have fun doing what I'm doing. And I think that also might be why I relate to Candy and Kenya. Ooh, this is like a therapeutic moment. We're out here until the next time. #randomly with Ronnie Jr. Talk to you later.
All right, now we are breaking down Kenya Moore's greatest moments in Real Housewives of Atlanta, which is very, very difficult to do for a couple of reasons. She was a star, a superstar before any of reality TV fame, okay? So it's hard to just bring all that and kind of itemize it, but you know, she's brought in so much. Kenya Moore hair care, you know, we remember these things. Gone with the Wind fabulous, and I think we're at a stage with reality TV, whether Kenya does reality TV, doesn't do reality TV, comes back into reality TV, etc., does more within, you know, hair care and entrepreneurship, takes a beat from the limelight. Whatever she does, she's always going to be compelling, and I think we're going to come up with some really wonderful moments, which makes Kenya Moore compelling and a ultimate top tier reality TV star, no matter what. From now until forever, she brings the heat. So let's take a look at some really fun Kenya Moore moments.
Season 5, the battle of the workout videos with Phaedra. And of course, Kenya, hitting below the belt, says, I don't think you should do a workout video when your body's not there. Of course, she said she didn't want to say it, but she did say it. And then she backed it up in the confessional. You never go word for word with Miss Kenya Moore. The Kenya Moore hair care moment, when Kenya Moore comes through with the marching band at Marlowe's event. Marlowe's event, however, would not get much shine if it was just on the basis of Marlowe's event. So in some ways, Kenya brought light to Marlowe's event, because no one would have been talking about it. Now we all know Marlowe's event and Marlowe's cause on the basis of Kenya Moore hair care. Now, at the beginning of season 6, regarding a fresh start with Phaedra, Kenya might have went a little off by saying, I don't trust her as far as I could throw her, but because she weighs 200 pounds or more, we all know that's only about an inch. Kenya comes in hot with this next one. She says, all of Atlanta's talking about the house that never was, of course referencing She by Sheree. Kenya in a confessional says, Sheree is screaming at me, acting crazy, as if I sliced the air mattress she's been sleeping on for the past 4 years. She needs to back up. This was not Cynthia Bailey's idea of a good event for her sunglass line.
All right, now there's just so many different things we could say about Kenya Moore. She really does bring it each and every time. Before I do my last Kenya Moore moment, if you wanted to support what we're doing here, this is a quick way on what you could do. So check this out.
For more randomness, hit the Patreon at patreon.com/randomlyronniejr. Did you remember to like, comment, and subscribe? Oh, come on, stop being so lazy. This show has no budget, but whose fault is that if you don't like, comment, or subscribe?
All right, back to Kenya Moore. And as I've said before, you know, if you were not around, if you weren't there, you might not know the significance of Kenya Moore. And you also might think, oh, what did Portia try to say? You're just that chick from the 90s? Oh, no one even cared about you then. You know, Kenya Moore really was something. So it really specifically, if you are not of that era, you may not get it. You may not get the contextual texture that what Kenya Moore really was of our time. In those late 90s, in those early 2000s, Kenya Moore really did push the needle. She really did move some things around. I just love her so much, you know. So when she started Real Housewives of Atlanta on season 5, it was not only an additional star-making moment, but it really was a nod to the franchise. We're bringing in top tier talent. So wrapping things up, here's another wonderful Kenya Moore moment.
And of course, the ultimate Kenya Moore moment, the Gone with the Wind fabulous moment, where she twirled on him. Talk about a debut season. And because Kenya is that great, as a bonus, when she said about Portia, she's not a public speaker. You better get Miss USA correct next time.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.